After having 25 shops, suddenly my business took a drastic turn and I decided to close all the shops. That was in 1989. It caused a lot of uneasiness and fear in my family, my directors, my management team. And I realized how much many people depend on me. The good thing is that the staff that were retrenched easily got other jobs because of the low unemployment rate. So all this experience make me understand the meaning of what is compassionate. And I began to feel more for people in trouble, people who are down and out.
You're also now an even greater subject of public attention. When you first announced your decision to run back in June, many criticized your command of the Malay language. How did you deal with that?
Actually, I can speak Malay, but my Malay is everyday Malay. What happened that day is I did not realize they were recording it on FB Live. I thought it was a normal way, that it will be edited later on. So I wanted to use a better Malay word, and that is what happened. I learned a thing or two about the media.
So how did you overcome this?
Well, I decided to improve my Malay, so I took lessons. In the last 2.5 months, I had taken 30 lessons. And I believe my Malay is much improved now. But of course, it's still not up to the standard of the journalists of the media.
Were there any changes that you had to make to your lifestyle since you announced your decision to run?
I used to spend about 1 hour to 1.5 hours reading the daily papers. Now I think I spend only the most half an hour. There's so many things to think about. And so many messages coming in every day from my team members. Now I realize why they say I must have a handphone. I did not carry a handphone throughout my whole life, but started using one only 3 months ago. Now I cannot leave home without the handphone.
So how have your preparations been going? Are you confident that you'll be able to convince the Presidential Elections Committee that you are qualified for the job?
I have submitted the application forms. I have spent more than 100 hours, most of it thinking how best to convince them. So now it's in their hands, but I'm confident that they will qualify me.
And that's news now this hour. Don't forget our headlines are coming up in just a few minutes. But in the meantime, if you'd like more updates, do visit channelnewsasia.com or visit us on Facebook and Twitter.
The springtime flowers of a mountain lake, to the first snowfall on a winter's day. Sponsored by Qatar Airways.
This September, it's mind over matter to stay ahead of the game. Redesign my brain. Learn how to overcome your greatest fears by simply rewiring your mind in this groundbreaking new series. Foresight. Beyond grades. What does the future entail for the new workforce? Unusual suspects. Meet Singaporeans doing the extraordinary to make their mark in the world. This September, only on Channel News Asia.
This is the heart of the world's business landscape, the epicenter of fresh policies, rapid changes and new developments. This is the pulse of Asia's economic change, where opportunities abound, capital flows, and knowing what's next is crucial to make your next move. This is Asia Business First, ringing in the biggest business stories as the opening bells strike across the region.
Asia Business First on Channel News Asia.
Your life would not be determined by your exam result at a particular point in time.
We're shifting our whole orientation towards what we call continuing education programs, right?
There are multiple pathways to success. There isn't one road that takes you there.
So we need a system that's agile, and we need individuals to be ready to learn new things.
Foresight, Wednesday on Channel News Asia.
Brought to you by Singapore Institute of Management.
Hello, here are the headlines this hour. Mixed messages from the Trump administration over North Korea's defiant missile launches. U.S. President Donald Trump says talking is not the answer to restraining North Korea, but Secretary of Defense James Mattis says a diplomatic solution is still a possibility. Meanwhile, U.S. officials at the UN's Forum on Disarmament have called for concerted action by the international community to pressure North Korea following its recent missile launch over Japan. A senior Myanmar minister has denied health workers at risk in Rakhine State, even amid evidence NGOs are being targeted. It follows government claims that some international NGO personnel may be colluding with militants from the minority Rohingya community. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights said such statements are irresponsible. Harvey has been downgraded into a tropical depression, but catastrophic flooding is expected to continue in and around Houston and parts of Louisiana. The death toll has also risen to at least 25, while tens of thousands of people have been driven from their homes. A report pegs economic losses at nearly $60 billion. Meanwhile, 4 Republic of Singapore Air Force Chinook helicopters based in Texas have arrived on site to help with relief efforts. And that's another look at this hour's top stories.
A stage drama that fuses the sounds of a classical string quartet with traditional Vietnamese instruments. The cross-cultural music featured in My Lai is one of the highlights at this year's Singapore International Festival of Arts.
And here to tell us more are musician Vinine Vo, composer Jonathan Berger, and David Harrington, founder and violinist of the Kronos Quartet. Welcome to the show, guys.
Morning.
Jonathan, let's kick off with you. The production is based on a true story that took place during the Vietnam War. Tell us how it inspired your compositions.
So the war in Vietnam was a deeply traumatic moment in American history, and one that I grew up with. And the massacre of innocent civilians at the hands of American soldiers in Vietnam was in My Lai, the town of My Lai, was really a tipping point of public opinion. And we wouldn't have known about that story had it not been for the momentary, instantaneous decision of Hugh Thompson, who is the hero of this musical event.
The person playing Mr. Thompson has got a very powerful voice, and he's right there on your screen. Could you tell us a bit more about this tenor?
Oh, Rindy Eckert is he's really more than a tenor. He's a tenor, actor, playwright, composer, director, We met many years ago. He directed my last opera, and it was really at that time where he and Mark DiChiazzo, who's the director of this show, we worked together on that and sort of hatched this plan. So.
David, we just saw you on screen there playing the violin. The Kronos Quartet, winner of multiple Grammy Awards. How would you describe the quartet's style of music?
Well, I do my best to not describe our music because I never know where it might go next.
Fair enough.
And one of the things that's wonderful about being in Kronos is that we get to work directly with amazingly creative composers and performers. And if you do this long enough, and actually I just recall that tomorrow is the 44th anniversary of the beginning of Kronos.
Wow.
And if you do it long enough, you start to kind of have this sense that the music is something that all of humanity shares, and it's something that as musicians we get to share with other people. And instruments are wonderful wherever they're found. They're just wonderful.
Okay, let's talk about the collaboration, because it's not just the quartet, it's in collaboration with Vietnamese instruments. Tell us about that collaboration, you know, where we bring Western music and Eastern music together. And it sounds very enriching, very alive, and very poignant at the same time.
You know, that I am trained well in Vietnamese traditional instruments and even won the national championship title on my instruments. But moving to the US, this is a new whole thing that I had to start again. And I have been following music from Kronos because I saw that there's a ground for musicians from different cultures and diverse, you know, to come in and share voices, and that's what I really appreciate. So that's why when in 2010, when I start to work with Kronos, then we start to share a lot, and we just talk that it feels like a very long time because we have been working with each other many projects and share what we know, what we can influence and be influenced through music.
Vinay, we can see you playing on the screen there. Do you have any favorite Vietnamese instruments? Because you play a couple.
Yes, yes. I start out with Vietnamese đàn tranh, the same family with Cu Trưng and Koto and Kayagum. I would say that is my favorite because through the instrument I can play so many different music genres, and I even take the instrument to play with jazz, rock, and obviously with Western classical music.
Jonathan, let's bring you back into the discussion. My Lai opens in Singapore before touring the US. Why did you pick Singapore as your first stop?
Singapore is a culturally diverse city, rich in so many ways, and I think that your concept of fusion, there's probably no better city to make that, to stage that.
Yeah. Well, David, what do you hope this production will convey to audiences?
Well, I think musicians are frequently called upon in moments of great happiness to provide sounds. We're called upon in moments of great sadness. Music is something that humanity uses all the time, and what I'm hoping is that the audience that hears My Lai will have this sense that musicians as a family all over the world, I think of the musical community as a family, are very concerned about all sorts of things. And one of them is celebrating those pivotal moments in life when you make decisions that influence everything in the future. And as Jonathan was saying, Hugh Thompson did that. And he allowed our entire American society to know the truth. And to celebrate that is something that I feel this opera does, and we're very proud to.
When we talk about My Lai, we talk about Vietnamese women and children who were massacred back in 1968. Do you find it sometimes you get very emotionally attached to the plays you do with the music you're putting out?
Yes, we're very close to all of the projects and experiences that we are a part of. And it's interesting, someone at the conservatory asked us the other day, how do you play music that is so sad and not get sad yourself? Mm-hmm. And I had to really think about that. And the thing is that basically the world is round. We all share the same air, the same water, and there's all sorts of things going on every minute, every second. And some of them are really joyful and some of them aren't. Yeah. But music...
Question now, a question now for Vinay and Jonathan. What sort of challenges did you guys encounter in this production?
You know, the topics talk about the time that it happened when I wasn't even born. However, growing up from the countries right after the war end, I did have some knowledge about it. So we have the main thing that we have to try to come closer from the point of view of you know, like as if for me, from growing up in Vietnam and know about the world through the north side of Vietnam, because I'm from Hanoi. So there's many things that I have to learn and you know, just contribute to the musical, but also sink in and try to understand how the people had to run through.
For me, I think the biggest challenge was integrating these two worlds of instruments in a way that didn't seem appropriating or inappropriate. And working with Van An and Kronos together made that absolutely possible. One of the interesting points about these sets of instruments is that we're using instruments that were actually crafted of materials of war. That's one of the amazing traditions of Vietnamese music.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Yeah.
We were speaking with Vinay Phua, Jonathan Berger, and David Harrington. Kick